Alright, it's a cold day, but it's a good day working on the S10. I finally got some steering parts in, so we're going to try to get the truck to sit on its own weight by the end of this video. That's kind of the goal. So I got to do basically just the track bar is what I'm really concerned about. I can't do all of the steering in the front yet until I get my steering box. I got to get the Astro box, the two-wheel drive Astro van box, so I got to get one of them on order. Kind of just waiting on that until I got my other steering stuff because I had no clue when that was going to come in. But I'll show you what we got and we'll start figuring out where the track bar mounts are going to go. Alright, so I've got most of a steering and track bar kit from Rough Stuff. Again, they were kind of the cheapest option when I was shopping around, and when I bought the radius arms, they got to me pretty quick, and the steering did not. I'm still missing a couple pieces. They have to wait and get the left-hand thread weld-in bungs for these tubes. They had everything else except for that. All in the jam nuts for the left-hand thread too, but I told them just go ahead and send me what they had so that I can get working on this truck. So the axle side is going to be pretty easy. Just weld the bracket onto the tube. It's an offset mount. You can see the axle tube goes right there, so that'll be kicked forward just a little bit, but the frame side is going to be the interesting side because there is not a lot of room to play with in here. Ideally, I'd like to be roughly right here, but on the back side. I'm going to pick the truck up, so there's a little bit more room in there, but we got to be careful with this rag joint right here on the steering. We're going to need that, and I'm probably going to have to get some light on. Probably going to have to pull that pitman arm. It's going to be right in the way of where I'm trying to weld, and we're not going to be doing a pitman arm that direction anyways, so I'll either pull that pitman arm or pull the steering box totally out after I mark kind of the outline of where that thing lands. And then there's other miscellaneous things in here, like the cooler lines and miscellaneous junk that's part of the 4.3 that we're not going to be needing anymore. So I'm going to clear all that out of here, get this truck picked up a little bit, and then we'll start. I got to tack those brackets, and then we'll start figuring out where that's going to go. Like I said, on the axle side, it's going to be pretty easy, just right in here. It's going to be pretty much right underneath the frame, but that's okay. If that bracket ever contacted the frame up here, that's going to be about the same as if these pads would hit the frame, and then I'll have some buff stops in here once we're all said and done. So I gotta get this stuff cleaned off, get that steering box out of there probably, and then I'll bring you back when I start getting to cutting and welding. Alright, so I've got this side tacked in with the bracket kind of kicked out forward because I need to have as much clearance around this dip as I can with as low of a ride height as I have, and this spot up here would be perfect to mount the track bar to, but with the bracket here, it's gonna hit that diff for sure. And I have this sitting a little bit lower than ride height, so I kind of get an idea of when it bumps, kind of where it's gonna be. So what I'm thinking is I cut this kind of bracing in where the steering box goes, and you can see there's a bolt here and a bolt hole here where the steering box is. So right here is kind of the real estate that I'm wanting to work with, and I'm going to trim this bracket up quite a bit. And honestly, I'm thinking about putting a new hole a little bit higher, but for now what I'm going to do is probably cut this bracket right here, because this part is going to just be too long. I can already tell. And on this side, I need to cut this slit down further because it's kind of on an angled piece of frame. So I need the back side to go up and hit the frame, so this front side needs to be cut down more. So I'm going to start with cutting this front side down, seeing how high up I can get this to ride. And then you can see there, like, it's all the way touching the diff. So I'm going to be clearancing that up pretty high. And hopefully that spot will work, because that's about all I can see where it's going to be. And then the drag link's going to be up forward over here, because the steering box will be in the same spot. but the pitman arm will come out forward, so that'll be okay. I'm really not worried about like serviceability. I'm just worried about the track bar actually hitting the diff into the ring gear. So I'll get this trimmed up and mock it up here again, and we'll see. Alright, so here's what we ended up with. Not much left of the original bracket, of course, but I measured from the center of the hole to the bottom on the lowest bolt on that last bracket, and kind of kept that spacing here. I do also still have the piece that goes up here to kind of box this in and strengthen it a little bit, which is good. I've got this heim joint in here just to kind of show, get up under here again, that there is space between the heim joint. You're not going to be able to see. Tons of space between the heim joint and the frame. So I'm not worried about that. And this is actually starting to fit pretty dang good. So I'm going to have to clean off the frame up here and tack this thing in. And then we'll see how it aligns with that bracket over there. From here it looks pretty good. Ugh. Laying on that is not very comfortable. But we'll get the... we'll get a bar on here, just one of those that came in the kit over there, and just see how the alignment looks just from eyeball. I think that bracket over here, I'm going to cut down a little bit lower too. I don't think it needs to have all the spacing over here, but this one's a little more flexible. There's a lot more room to play with on this side, so I'm going to get the frame over here cleaned off real good, get this bracket tacked in, and we'll come back and look at it, see how things are lining up. All right, got this tacked in here and checked, oops, move that. Checked clearance to the steering box with these mounts, and it actually looks pretty good. So it's going to be real tight up in here off of this corner here. If I have to chamfer that a little bit later, I can, but for now I'm going to leave some meat on it. And I think I'm ready to weld this in. Both of them actually, weld them all the way in. If I hold this side up against the mount there, it's looking pretty flat. And I know that this is both above this mount and below this mount, but I'm pretty happy with that. So it's looking like I can get this welded in. It's gonna be a little short. I might cut this one off and move it out a little bit. You can see there's some space to move it outwards just to make this a little bit longer of a piece, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm gonna get these mounts welded in. Well, this one welded in, that one maybe moved and then welded again. Man, I am ready to get this thing sitting on its own weight so that I can get rid of the engine crane and the chain and these straps and everything. Just get them out of the way, because they're kind of right where I need to be, but they're also kind of important to me lifting and lowering this thing when it's off of the jack stands back there. So I'm gonna get that welded in, and then I guess we'll start working on getting this bar cut down, get some bungs welded into it, and see if we can get this thing sitting on its own weight. Wait on it. Well, there it is, sitting on the ground on its own weight. The weight is subject to change, but let me show you a couple of the concern points that I have. One I knew from the very beginning is this clearance here for the radius arm to the frame. There's really not a whole lot of space. The diff can go up, so I'm thinking that it's going to bump stop before we hit that, but we'll have to see. We'll have to cycle it. Either way, it's going to get bump stopped. The alignment is a little off. I haven't messed with aligning the control arms, adjusting the caster, anything. I just wanted to get it on its own weight. You can see left to right is pretty good. You can see it looks like it maybe could stand to move over a little left to right. This one's really bad, front to back. You see the axle is a little farther forward than the spring mount is. But again, I was just trying to get this thing on its weight. I haven't adjusted anything at all. The clearance here is looking pretty good, even with this axle move back an inch or two. And when I finally get everything put together, this corner is probably going to get chopped across here and probably hammered in this area. I'm not afraid to do that. It's back behind the fender anyways. So for today, I'm pretty happy with this progress. I've got my track bar in, and it's actually pretty straight. This track bar bracket could actually have been centered up a little bit more than the way that I have it, but it is working, so I'm happy with it. We've got our yellow strap. You can't really tell, but from here to here, you can kind of see the angle of it. Not very steep, which is good. That'll help prevent bump steer. And one caveat that I didn't think about when I was putting it together is right here. This nut has to go on before the bolt is really all the way through, and the bolt has to come in from the back. It can't come forward because of the way this frame flares out this way. Not a big deal. There's tons of space behind it to get that in there, but overall for today, I'm really happy with this progress. I can't build the steering until I get my Astrovan box, which is fine. I don't want to build half of it. I just do the tie rod and wait for the drag link. I want to do it all at once, so I can wait on that. I can adjust this in a little bit. Oh, let's check with the angle finder. How much rake are we gonna have? Oh, you can't beat that. It's about dead nuts level. Yeah, this thing's gonna be cool. All right, new day for me and new project on the S10. So with the track bar in, that's as much of the steering as I can really do. I still need my steering box, pitman arm, and some left-hand thread weld-in bungs. So I'm not gonna touch the steering until I have all of that. So today I'm going to do some rock sliders. The rockers and cab corners on this truck are pretty rusty. This one's actually pretty nice compared to the other one. The other one's way worse. I'm sure you've seen it in some of my other shots. So I'm going to cut them out and weld in some 2x4 rectangle tube. I've got some quarter wall, which is going to be a little overkill, but that'll be okay. So we'll weld them in place of the rockers. We'll coat inside of there once we get it cut out. This is going to be another video just kind of winging it, or another part of the video just kind of winging it, seeing what's going to work and what's not. Once we get a general shape cut out and kind of happy with it, I'm going to make some kicker bars off of it. Got some black pipe, I think. So it'll also be a fairly thick wall. It's a little bit softer than like a DOM or something, but for all intents and purposes, I think it's going to be okay. Anything that this truck is going to hit with the sliders is going, in Kentucky anyways, is going to be pretty slow speed, or at least it should be. And even if I bang up and dent up the black pipe, the rectangle tube is not going to bend. That's going to be pretty permanent. And then I'll have to make some kickers that go from the rockers down to the frame to really set that in. Because if I just weld it to the body, it's just going to crunch in the body if I hit something real hard. So I'm going to start by cutting out what's here. Let me show you real quick. We're going to go ahead and cut out what's here. You can see it's pretty rotten. It's really common on the trucks up this way. And I'm going to make it basically the length of these factory ones. So from about right here to the back of the cab corner, because this is going to get clearanced probably, and this is going to get clearanced definitely. So whatever I'm going to do back here, I'm not sure yet. I really don't want to cut the bed. I like the way the bed looks. It has this one rust spot right here, which really sucks. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, but I want to put some sort of protection underneath, but that's going to be later. Right now, just the rock sliders. I'll show you the other side real quick. This side is much worse, as you can see, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do to fill in the hole up to here. I'm still trying to figure that out. I might cut a cab corner off of another truck to put on here, or maybe I will actually buy the replacement cab corner sheet metal and try to make that kind of nice, which sucks. I didn't want to have to do really any paint work on this, but it'll be all right. But yeah, this side is much, much worse for wear. Luckily, the doors are still okay. It's just all the rocker. So I'm going to cut this out pretty much up to here. And maybe I'll get a piece of 2x4 and we'll hold it up here and make sure that's kind of the size that I want before we get too deep into this. But either way, these rockers are getting cut out and rock sliders are going in their place. All right, I've got this little piece here. And the reason I'm using this 2x4 is because I had it already. I was going to use it to make rock sliders for my XJ, and then I didn't do anything with this metal for a long time. And ended up being in the cage for my wife's derby car. So there's a couple pieces of it cut up right there from when we scrapped the car, and then the rest of the stick is over there in my metal pile. So what I want to do, yeah, see this side doesn't have any inner or outer rocker. You can see where the inner is supposed to be. This is going to be tough on this side to get it all lined up properly. Luckily there's some metal right here. But over here I can kind of hit where the inner rocker is. You can see there. And it sticks off just a little, which is great. I don't want the rectangle part to stick out very far because that's not the part that's going to look real nice. So that'll be up in there like that, and then tubes welded off. So where there's metal, I'm going to cut along this this corner, this radius here, and that's where I'm going to tack it in a bunch of places all the way across, just to get it to hold in here level. And I'm going to use my jack stands, of course, to help hold it in there. And I have to do it with the door closed, because if I get too carried away, then you can see the rust here is up behind the door, and if I weld this too high, then the door won't open and close. Like that being touching the door right there would be bad. So I'm gonna space it down a little bit like that, basically matching that body line there, and then we'll have to fill in some metal over the top of it. That's okay. Obviously I'm gonna have to do something with this anyways. It's kind of a shame having to work on a rusty truck, but that's how you get them cheap, right? And you know me, I won't buy it if it's not cheap. This truck was $300 when I bought it, since the motor was locked up and the front was already, well, the motor may be okay, but it's been sitting out in the elements for a long time. So I'm not even gonna try it. I bought it with the intention of swapping it. And then I have this truck sitting out here that I also got for cheap, and it's rustier than this one, but that one at least runs and moves. Really, I got that one because I thought I might need parts for this one, and the gas tank on this one started leaking when I was tearing everything apart. Didn't even touch it, just a hole broke out in it and started leaking. So I'm at least going to need the gas tank off of that truck. But anyways, before I get rambling too much, I'm going to go start measuring and cutting some metal, and we got to get these rockers out first, I guess. So I'll start there. Let's cut these rockers out. All right, I got this rocker cut out. We're gonna just do one all the way through, I think, before getting to the other, so that we get an idea of what we want to do before tackling two things at one time. And maybe I didn't mention before, I The reason I want to weld it to the inner rocker and this right here, the top basically so it looks good, but this is going to be for a locator. This really isn't structural. I mean, you can see that I can bend that really easily, especially with all the rust that's on this truck. So we'll have to give this a good coat of paint before we weld anything to it, any sort of permanently. But I also went ahead and cut the corner of the cab off right here. We'll get that coated with paint too, keep it from rusting when we coat everything. I mean, everything's going to get coated on this truck before it's finished. So next, man, areas like this are going to be real tough. The welder's not going to be able to do anything with that. Anyways, I got my remainder of stick of square tube here, or rectangle. I'm going to measure it up and get it cut. I don't think that my jack stands are going to go tall enough to hold it in there where it needs to go, so I'm going to have to find some sort of kind of lift system for my jack stands. I don't know that I have much wood laying around, but so far so good. That one actually cut out pretty good. I'm leaving handprints all over my truck, and once we get this to cut to length and kind of roughly where we want it, that's when the fun's going to really start, I think. So I'm going to get this cut down, get it held up there, and then I'll bring you back and kind of show you where we're at. Alright, I got this thing sitting on these buckets here, and it actually worked out pretty good. I was holding it right where I want it to be. And since the truck doesn't have shocks, I was able to like push the truck up and over to get this side up underneath, and then let it come back down. So that was pretty nice. You can see I didn't go all the way to the ends so that I can make a little cap piece on both sides. So I'd scoot it back a little bit, because this one is right at the end of the rocker panel. You can see the corner right there. So get that thing moved back a little ways before final install, but I left about a 1/2 inch. This is 1/4 inch material, so 1/4 inch on one end, 1/4 inch on the other. And then my idea, let me run over here to my metal pile. This is going to be a very crude representation. Oh, this place is a mess. Man, you start doing projects and stuff just starts getting thrown around every which way, don't it? We'll use this piece just as a crude reference. But I'll take some of this black pipe, which looks like it is not 1/4 inch, but that'll be okay. 3/16 is really all you need. But make some hoops, obviously not that big, but something more like that. Some little hoops that come out as some kind of like tree kickers, because when you hit a rock straight on, this will be okay for just the rocker panel. You can see it doesn't even hardly come out to where this body line is. But then when you're all leaned over into a rock like this, and the rock is coming straight in, that's going to be all up in the door. So I'll have these little kickers. I might try to see if I can flare them up a little bit instead of keeping them straight, but honestly straight is easy. So kick them things out straight, and those will be a nice little step, especially once I get my roof rack built for up here. Because since I run M11 off-road, which if you guys didn't know, you should go check that out. Me and a buddy of mine started a company making off-road accessories and parts and things. We're still pretty new, but one of our big things that we're proud of is our roof racks. I have one on my XJ. I'll put a picture in here so you can see that. But since the crew cabs came with, or the ZR5s came with a roof rack, I'm going to build one for this, and it's going to be awesome. So having the steps there will be nice for getting stuff on and off of the roof rack. And then I'll have my bed tent right there, and this thing's going to be a unit. But I'm really happy with this. That fitment's really, really good. You saw that I could open the doors no problem. So I'm going to see if I have enough black pipe to even dream about making these little kicker things. I'm thinking that I don't, but we'll see. If not, I'll call up my buddy Mike up at Harris Welding in Ashland. They always have pretty good prices on steel. They'll help me out. So let's see what I can do with this today, and we'll keep on trucking. At the very least, we can cut the other side out and get it mocked up like this. Well, maybe not. I've only got so many free buckets. All my other ones are full of oil.
Things.
That one's twisted. So this one's the biggest.
Yep.
That's about a 1/2 inch.
Yeah.
There's actually a little bit more. Well, I'm already marked at 1/2 inch too. And also mark it 1/2 inch, but since it's already sitting off. All right, so you just watched us build these rock sliders. I am super happy with how these are coming out. You can see they're sticking off pretty good to help protect from any body damage, almost as much as the truck width on the back, but that'll probably change with the new wheels and tires. But the next step, I've got these little kick-out pieces. Let me lay underneath here. And flush. Because this is going to need a little bit of trimming in some areas, like right here. You can see where I marked out where that X is. I've got these pieces. They're going to go from the frame. They're going to weld to the frame and go up in behind the slider. You can see the body's in the way right there. But once that body's cut out, like where I have that marked, then we'll have little kickdowns that attach these to the frame. So these are going to be really, really solid. They're not going to go anywhere. But overall, these are coming out really good. I'm super happy with how this is turning out, especially considering we don't have a tube notcher and we used the Harbor Freight bender. All right, both rock sliders are in. Very exciting, and I know I'm nothing compared to the weight of this truck, but they're solid too. That's looking super good. And then you can see my kickdowns to the frame that I made. So that's going to do it for this video. I'm really happy to get this thing sitting down on its own weight and have the rock sliders fully installed. Well, fully installed. I still got to do all the little tack welds to the body where there is some body left, and that's not something I'm going to put on camera because that's just going to take forever and be very tedious. So again, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you coming here and all the support that I have on this build. I'm really excited for this. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So if you want to see more that I do on this truck, make sure you like and subscribe. Stay tuned. I'll be posting little pictures here and there on my Instagram page as well, which I'll have linked down in the description below. And until then, see you next time.